Why is my check engine light on? Now I'm scared. So this was a mine where the movie Dawn of the Dead was filmed. And so a lot of you guys commented that you recognized this place, that it looked like that. And this is the mine.
Wait, it was filmed in the mine?
It was filmed in here.
I thought it was just filmed in Wampum.
No, in here. In the mine.
That's so
in the
cool.
mine. Dawn of the Dead. And my friend Rich, he's got this poster. We were talking about it last night and what happened and all that, and mentioning that, you know, it was in fact filmed here. And he's like, yeah, I got a poster on my wall. So
cool.
This freaking picture you're looking at is from my friend Rich. He had this on his wall. I've been looking at it every time I go over and we play Wii together. Like we play like Wii bowling and stuff and drink beer and whatever. But he's got this poster on his wall. Oh, and by the way, check out my Wii character. This guy I created based off of this picture. And so you'll get an idea of why my character looks like this. It totally looks like me. Totally look like I'm stoned in the picture. And I totally look like I'm stoned on the Wii. And dude, this is crazy. I've never been back to this part.
We're gonna have to watch Dawn of the Dead now.
I know. I mean, he's got these, my friend's got these action figures too. Oh, there we are right there.
Oh,
Perfect.
there it is.
Perfect. I'm just gonna leave this here for a minute. We'll kind of get the dogs out and get them maybe in the RV. There's a couple of checks that we're gonna need to do. In particular, the first thing we gotta do is check for the alternator diodes and make sure we don't have an alternator issue that is gonna smoke my new module. This is Penny right here blocking the way. Yeah, just hope no zombies come to eat. Okay, up. The dogs are like, I remember. I gotta grab my stick light. There's zombies in here. Hey, look, Pi. Look at Pi. He's in the driver's seat. Penny. Pi. Penny. All right. What I need to do first is actually kind of shitty, because I need to bolt this module up. I don't want it banging around, you know? We gotta at least put one bolt in here for now, which kind of sucks. It's nice that you're here now though, because to do this before was like next to impossible, because I had to have like vice grips on the inside, and then I didn't have any penetrating oil either. All I have is silicone. I didn't come prepared again. So one of the first things that we're gonna do when I start this, we're gonna check my alternator and make sure that we don't have any kind of a crazy overcharge condition. Pretty certain that what happened, based on the comments from our community, this thing was hit with 24 volts on the jump pack, and my guess is maybe that it stalled on them. I'm still thinking because of those grounds that were, like these grounds right here, that were not maybe installed properly, and then maybe it stalled and wouldn't restart, and they weren't really paying attention and decided to, you know, to hit it with 24 volts. We kind of think that that's what happened. Why does this have to be here like this? Like, for me to even get under there right now is gonna be difficult. I need a pair of vice grips for sure, and I'm only putting one bolt in here. Hell, if I could right now, I'd freaking zip tie this just to keep it still, you know? I'm gonna need you, unfortunately, at least to just put a finger on this. I gotta crawl underneath and then start it. All right, put your finger on that bolt. And now I need you to tighten that.
Soft-handed weenie, remember?
Is it good?
Yeah.
All right, I like that. We can bolt the rest of that up when we get home. Next thing is batteries. Normal stuff right there, son. Not like when I arced those modules. Yes, thank you, son. Oh, something else to mention. A lot of you guys had told me to put a transfer switch or a cutoff switch. Why don't you put one in? Come over here so you can get a shot of this one. We have main cutoff switches, but the mine, it's not good enough. right? It's not good enough for them. They still want cables disconnected. And you can understand why. Safety-wise, fire hazards, everything is different. You can say you have it unplugged and you don't. You know, if something can be effed up, you can guarantee that people will do it. So the way they have their policies where the cables have to be disconnected, I understand it. They do say all cables. You can even understand that too, because let's say I just disconnect my negative and this is a cable that's real tight and lays next to it. It can easily move back over and make contact. And so that's why they say all cables. I think you bring your rig to a place like this, you need to think about those things. I think one of the things that I'm changing future-wise for sure is having a diagram here for the guys. Number one. Number two would be there was some suggestions of zip ties for these grounds, those 3 grounds up top. These 4 is zip tie those together. I'll show you that in a second. Leave a diagram also maybe in like bold, like marker, like paint stick, right? 12-volt system on here in a couple places so they know this is a 12-volt system. Do not jump this with 24. Precautions that I've actually been talking to the owners of the mine for suggestions on improvements, which is pretty freaking sweet. I was actually very much impressed by that they, you know, they saw the video and
They did right by you.
they did right by me. But like one of the suggestions you guys had was, I love this suggestion. Like take this assembly right here. It's kind of hard to do. I don't really have much space, but it was take these guys, right? These 4 grounds and zip tie them all together. And that, you know, you're forcing the guy's hand to understand that, hey, those need to go there. I like that idea a lot, and we'll figure out something there. You see my little, I just wrote them a note that probably could easily miss that. I just wrote 4 grounds, 1 big cable, 3 small cables. This would be the time for my starter bent drive gear to lodge in and get stuck. Let's hope that doesn't happen. I've had some issues when these sit where the starter's engaged and just keeps cranking and cranking and cranking. All right, now, before I even start this, what I wanna do, I'm gonna grab I got my old Vantage. We're gonna do a quick test right here on this is the engine or chassis batteries. This is the house batteries underneath. I wanna get an alternator diode and voltage reading here on the batteries. I'm gonna grab my scope. So we're confident that I'm confident something was done, but there were suggestions from you guys and they were legit, and I didn't think about it, and that is, let's make sure that I don't have some type of alternator problem on this rig that could potentially have caused conditions, overcharging conditions, things like that. So I definitely want to do that. That was absolutely great suggestions. I wish I had names of people who were offering suggestions from the last video. Uh-oh, low battery. Do I have enough to do what I need to do? I'm trying to set this up where you can see it. Okay, hold on. That's 12. All right. So something else that you guys mentioned too was about the batteries and how old they were and were they dead and did it need jump started? The answer is no to all the above. These are 2-year-old batteries. It says 15. These ones might be older. But you can see right now with them connected, I'm at 12.6. These batteries were fine. The other thing is, I'm sorry, I failed to mention my thought process, which was, why would they have jump started it in the first place? Well, the answer is it never needed jump started. However, if one of the grounds was left off and it wasn't restarting, the first thought is maybe it needs a jump. And so that's what happened. Very low battery, darn it. Oh, it just shut off on me. I don't have any other D-cell batteries, which means I can't do this test. Okay, I'm gonna turn this off. Okay, I'm gonna go start it. You just stay here. Crossing my fingers that this starts. Winning.
It died right as you started it and fell over.
Oh, 15.5. That's a lot. Volts AC, this would be an average. I know you can't hear me very well, but that's my average AC voltage in the system. I'm not worried about a diode. No, I'm okay with that. I wish I had a better tool. 15.6 is high. 1569. I don't like that. It's the highest I've ever seen it. But I think that's more effect than cause. I'm gonna turn some loads on. So, high beams, fog lights. I just want to put some loads on this. The other thing that I mentioned at the end of part 1, and I'm not gonna be happy about this, I don't think. Oh, sweet. Perfect. That's working now. That was not working.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, I had no charge rate, but 15.5 is a lot, man. I don't like 15.5. When you get higher than 15 or 15.5 is when you can start cooking. I mean, we can put some loads on the system. It's now being shared, so the house batteries are being charged. Okay, I'm gonna wrap up out there. I'm at 15.5. I can at least watch it here. I don't like how high that voltage is. Can you watch that? I'm gonna rev this up a little bit and tell me what voltage that goes to on that. As long as it stays at 15.5, doesn't go higher. 15.6, no higher? So that's at like 1100. The way voltage regulators work is the higher the RPM, the alternator spinning faster, will be a factor on the regulator. Also the loads that you have, and it's holding steady at 15.5. Makes me a little bit nervous, but I don't think it's enough to cook a module. I mean, those are the things we're thinking of right now. I don't want to cook my new transmission module. All right, let's go back out and wrap things up out there. 15.6. Peak of that spike is 0.02, so 20 millivolts. I'm totally fine with that. I do not have a diode problem. Something we didn't show is my dumbass ripping this door off last year.
Idiot.
We'll have to get a shot of my wall at home, but I have a new door. I don't think we showed this. There's my new door. Yeah, that door cost me like, I forget, it was like $1,000 for that door. For a door. Like, you gotta be kidding me. I think it was around that with shipping. All right, now we gotta get this hooked up. Why is my check engine light on? Fuck. Now I'm scared. I'm nervous now. Come in here. My check engine light's on. All right, so I want to talk about this oil pressure gauge. My oil pressure being at 0, the gauge oil pressure is different from the oil pressure sensor that I showed you guys in part 1. I don't like that my check engine light is on. I'm gonna shut this off. I'm super nervous right now to drive this without knowing what fault. See, I have a low oil pressure light here, and that goes out. My oil pressure gauge over here, which is still at 0, is a separate gauge from the engine computer or the oil pressure light that was here, the low oil pressure light. I did have a check engine light on. I don't like that I had that light on. So check engine light is now off. Let me go ahead and move this now. So I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm kind of frantic and I'm moving around and Caleb's having trouble keeping up, and let's just do it, man. Cannot see at all. Hey, I can't see. My camera's all fogged up. I gotta swing back. I was not gonna make that turn. Can't see at all. I'm so blind.
This is always so stressful to watch, every time.
I'm so blind, I can't see my camera. Dude, I'm so blind.
Good.
Camera's all fogged up.
Good.
Can't see behind me because the lights are blinding me. Stay. Dude, that was so hard. You'll like the audio. I've been there like the whole time. Ground wire. Stay there. Super important part. Transmission stays in park. Transfer case goes neutral. All right, I'm in neutral, and then I make sure I'll rev it a bit. Now listen. Hear that parking pin? I use that as my guide. And then we have a turn signal switch that we have to bypass one of the turn signal circuits because of where I tapped in. That's what this switch does. So we flip that switch down, and now the turn signals will work properly. Last thing is, transmission's in park, shut the engine off. You don't want the key locked. So one click forward with the key so the wheel can still turn. Flip the switch down for our turn signals. Transmission's in park, transfer case is in neutral. We are ready to go. Let's do it. I'm nervous why my check engine light was on. At least my check engine light is not back on. So hovering at 15.5, I'm okay with that, I guess. Not really. I need to focus on the exit here, but there is one thing that I'm really worried about. Now there's two, three, the voltage, the check engine light, but the transmission shift points. I learned from you guys. I had one in particular, one guy that really helped me out a lot. He cross-referenced our numbers for the transmission module, but these transmission modules, the transmission has adaptive shift points, and all these modules are unique to the application. And I had a guy that helped me out with the numbers, and we should be good with the module we have. We got lucky is what he said, that we may not have to do the recalibrate, which requires a factory tool, which I do not have. And the potential is there to literally ruin the transmission based on the shift points. Let's focus ahead, Caleb, on our exit strategy here. Why was my check engine light on, Caleb? It's not right now. Why was it? The 1-2 shift is the one I'm worried about. Nice, that was good.
Not bad.
Like the 1-2. Where's my 2-3? Nice, the 2-3 was nice. Where's my 3-4? Come on. 3-4 was good. Oh, praise the Lord. Oh, that was harsh.
What was that?
Well, I have my exhaust brake on. That was a downshift.
Okay.
So those are adaptives that need to be learned. It was a little harsh of a downshift, but I did have my exhaust brake on. To be honest with you guys, I don't know how people own these things that aren't mechanically inclined. I just really don't. You can't just get in one of these and turn the key. Air pressure looks good. Oil pressure does not. Separate gauge, separate power, separate ground, separate sending unit from the engine computer oil pressure sensor that I showed you guys in part 1. I did mention that. Some of you missed that aspect. I am not worried about not having oil pressure right now. I like my shift point there. My voltage is steady. 15.5. So far, so good, son. I'm still nervous on why my check engine light was on. It made me think about the oil pressure again and what I was telling everyone. Because I believe with an oil pressure sensor fault, you will get both a check engine light and a stop engine warning buzzer. And you saw there was a low oil pressure light on this display panel too. But again, that stuff over there, engine computer and all of that is separate from the oil pressure gauge that is on 0. That was just the floor that didn't close all the way. Nice. I actually like that downshift better than the other transmission module right there. The shift points of this, I always felt like the 5.4 and the 4.3 downshifts were always real harsh. If I'm pulling a hill, like the 4.3 in particular was always really harsh. These downshifts that I just felt right now were definitely harsher than what I'm used to feeling. Like I could feel that. So there are a little bit different shift points, but I liked the 4.3 that I just felt was less harsh than the other module. By the way, my friend Keith is doing a repair on our module and he's filming it. We'll make sure that we plug his channel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then he's gonna send it back. So we'll have 2 modules, when it's all said and done. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit firmer of a 1.2. The 2.3 and the 3.4 right there felt fine. Thankful my check engine light is not back on. I'm thankful that I have fuel. I feel like that 15.5 voltage that we have, I feel like that, I'm looking at my gauge right now, I think it's always been right there. So what that means is like, I was overly concerned about really about a 0.5 volt higher than what I'd like to see. I think it's possible that it's always been that way for this. Wow, that was a hell of a downshift right there. I had my exhaust brake on and there was like a bam bam, like it was 2 downshifts. That was a little strange. But those are just shift point differences with this module, and definitely something to consider as I drive this. Like I don't feel any transmission damage related type shifting. Yeah, I'm gonna go wide open now. So we're at the floor. Let's see how this feels on the floor. That felt good. I'm pulling over.
Go for it.
I want to get a nice brake check. That felt good. And then I wanted to get a full shift point thing wide open. This might be my only chance to get it. 15.5, all right, holding steady. All right, good. All right, we got a line of traffic. I'm gonna let that go. This voltmeter, the gauge on here, I probably have some footage of looking at my trans temperature and stuff in the past. I'll have to go back and look at that. One, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5. I'm still wide open. These things are turds as far as like taking off real fast, but lots of torque. This will be the 5.6 right now coming up. Last one, still wide open. Should be shifting real soon here. So I'm at 2200. It might hold it there. There it was right there. All right, good, I like it. Let's see if my cruise control still works. Yes, it does. Dude, I'm so like, I was still nervous. I don't know why my check engine light was on. I don't like that.
Pie.
Nice 5.6 downshift. Nice 6.5 downshift. And it was a nice 5.6 upshift. From what this feels like, I don't feel like I'm gonna do anything or change anything as far as programming goes with this module. We'll take our original module that my friend Keith is fixing for us, and we'll just hang on to it. So I had like 7 things written down, some talking points. We covered a couple of them. One was the oil pressure gauge, and that it is separate from the engine computer oil pressure sensor. And I gotta say that that's the one gauge that would float on me at times. And I felt like the float that I saw was not oil pressure related, it was more gauge related. So if there was a weakness in any of the gauges, that makes sense to me that that's the one that maybe took a shit. Obviously, we've been driving it now with no oil pressure for X amount of time, and if that was legit, I would have already ruined my engine. There Everything's good, guys. Everything looks good. I'm trying to think of some of the other... That was a weird shift. That was a... Dude, I don't like that at all. Yeah, I don't like that shift, man. It was like harsh and then delayed, and we may be putting our other module back in this till we can have this thing reflashed or programmed, reset. It's like a recalibration that needs to be done. Sorry, I'm thinking of multiple things right now, and I did not like that shift. I like the wide open throttle version of that downshift. So I was just talking about the situation, what happened, why did that happen? It seems to be unlikely that it was just a capacitor failure, because those do fail. And the reason that we believe that is oil pressure gauge is no longer working either. So you have two completely separate circuits that are not working. And they did move it. So it was parked for only, some of you had mentioned corrosion and because of the moisture in the mine and all legit stuff, but you got to remember that, well, things you guys wouldn't know is it was probably only in the mine for about 3 weeks, maybe a month, before they called me and said, hey, we moved your RV to get another one out, and then now it won't restart. And so remember that it wasn't there very long, so corrosion was not an issue or a factor in connections and stuff. And then B, they moved it. So they moved it first before what happened. Again, I can't with 100% certainty point to the mine and say it was your fault. Can't do it. It would be wrong of me to do that, although I think the evidence is there for A, those grounds, B, 24 volts. Those are the two that are still on the plate, on the table.
I don't know. You were doing so good.
Little bit concerned about the 15.5 volts we got going on with the whole system, but this is just I'm pretty sure it's a General Motors alternator. It's all self-contained. The voltage regulator is inside of the alternator, and when regulators fail, they don't fail at a different charge rate. They fail in that either A, it won't charge at all, or B, it will overcharge. And what you'll see is when you raise the RPM, you will see 15, 16, 17, 18, I've seen them as high as 19, 20 volts that an alternator will produce when a regulator fails. And we weren't seeing that. So it was steady at 15.5, 15.6 at idle. It stayed 15.5, 15.6 at 1100 RPM. Did not change. That told me the regulator is functional and working. And that also means that most likely is what it's been the whole time. And I just never really looked closely at it. When you have a failure and you see one gauge fail, then you start looking at the rest of them and seeing like, well, I don't remember that. And then maybe, I just don't remember. I feel like that is riding higher than what I remember seeing it. But my point with all of this is I don't think the regulator in the alternator failed, because it's holding steady at 15.5. And I've never seen a regulator fail where, let's say it's designed to regulate at 14.7. I've never seen them fail in that all of a sudden it's gonna now regulate at 15.5. It just doesn't work like that. They either fail all completely where they don't charge at all, or they fail where it's overcharging. And again, this alternator, this is an older system. It's not computer controlled. It is a standalone alternator, heavy duty alternator, lots of amperage, and it charges both the house batteries and the engine bay batteries while you're driving it. And that's why that indicator in here is the house batteries, the 15.5 that we were seeing. I want to say this about the mine. Let's talk about the mine, because I think we covered everything on the list now. They were super awesome with me. They were super cool in getting back to me. And I really felt like they cared about the situation that happened, and they were actually asking me questions, as far as the future and how to prevent any, because we don't know any of these variables, to prevent these conditions and you know, because they actually watched my part 1 video, which was pretty cool. And I don't know, do we have suggestions for owners who want to bring their rigs there? The last comment for those guys too is think about how many different model RVs they see that come in there. Hundreds of different models and different designs. There is no way that every one of those guys, unless you know you got a real experienced guy, that every one of those guys are going to know exactly how to properly connect the battery cables. I mean, it really should be self-explanatory, but on some of these systems it's not. And then the other piece would be to communicate that with the customers. Let them know, hey, this is our policy. It's fire hazard prevention, but help our guys out. Draw us a diagram of your cables so we know. Let the customers know that stuff. So we're running low on camera battery. Caleb's gonna shut down. Nothing else to really show or talk about right now until we get home. Next up for us in this video will be the oil pressure gauge and getting that thing looked at and why that's not working. I can show you guys maybe how to test the circuit. I don't have a diagram for it. I'll probably pull the panel and do my checks up here first. We might just be missing a power feed to that gauge. So it might be a simple fix. I don't know. We'll see that as soon as we get home. So we made it. Check engine light didn't come back on. Everything was good. I'm starting with this oil pressure gauge just by pulling the cluster. There's 4 bolts. It's going to be the easiest approach, being I have no diagrams for this system, and these are all add-ons. So it looks like we have 4 wires. One would be a light, one would be the sending unit wire, and then a power and a ground. I'm going to use my power probe. I have an adapter for my cigarette lighter. Check it out, jumper wires that go to cigarette lighter, power and a ground.
That's awesome.
It kind of is. It's from my friend Mike, rest in peace Mike, that I got that from actually like his family when he passed on. That should power up my power probe. I keep those apart from each other. That one is not hot. Wait, there we go. I don't like to necessarily start with the power probe, but given the layout of the RV, this has been my tool of choice for this thing. So let's see what we got. Let me turn the key on. That's gonna be annoying.
Is it going to be doing that?
Well, if I start it, it won't. I'll just start it, I guess. Okay. Definitely a little sketchy, my setup. I have this one right here. That should be my light. So I turn that beep off. I turn my lights on. Yeah, 14 volts. You able to see that?
Yeah.
So that's my lighting. That's good. This other red wire underneath is showing voltage of 15.5. Is it?
Focus.
That'd be the feed for the gauge. So it's good. That voltage is still high for my liking. This one down here should be my ground. Oh, 7.6 could be the sending unit wire. And then this would be the ground. Yeah, so 7.6. So the ground is 0 volts. I like that. The sending unit wire is 7.5 volts. Oil pressure gauge is stuck at 0. If I shut that off, let's see if we get a voltage change from oil pressure to no oil pressure. That's key off, but yeah, key back on. That's 7.8 volts, pretty steady. We start it up. And it didn't really change all that much. 7.4, 7.5. I should be able to ground that wire and make the gauge go full the other way. I mean, I would think the gauge would be operating at least somewhat right now. I'm hesitant to use this to ground it. I'm gonna grab my incandescent test light because I'm a little unfamiliar with the gauge itself. So we can use the power probe ground, and I'll connect my test light to that. and then kind of show you guys the test light's gonna light when I touch this power. Get it? And then this would be the gauge wire. It's gonna glow dimly, which it is. It is not moving at all. So is that enough to condemn the gauge? I typically like to, depending on the type of gauge, but I like to ground the circuit, make the gauge go one way, then open the circuit, make the gauge go the other. And on this type of gauge, I'm not 100% sure that I can do that. Hey, oil pressure. I just smacked on it. Come over here and look. I smacked on the gauge. Check it out. I'm sitting right here now. I should have shown you that. Rev it.
No way.
Yeah, I just smacked on the gauge. Let's see what voltage reading that's showing now. See if it's showing the same. And actually, let's redo our test and see if it works. Like me grounding that circuit. Let's do that first. So what I was looking for was gauge movement, and of course I didn't have any. Let's see if we can change this.
Yeah.
What did it do? Go up or?
Went all the way down.
Went all the way down? Now it's stuck again.
There it is.
Just wondering if that had nothing to do with it, and that we did indeed have exactly what the mine told us, exactly what they described, which is they moved the truck, parked it, and had it running, and then it wouldn't. They shut it off. Wouldn't go into gear. They shut it off. Wouldn't restart. I mean, seeing that where I'm smacking on that, making the gauge work, it just makes me. Let's see how far down this gauge goes. So look where it's sitting now when I shut it off. So it's just sitting. It's sitting there. I guess this would be a magnetic gauge where it stays where you shut it off. And you saw when I grounded it how the needle went all the way that way and then it stuck there. See, that could be an indication of a voltage surge still. I guess what I'm getting at is this oil pressure gauge is not cooked. But when I ground the gauge completely, not completely, but use my test light to pull it down some, and it goes below zero, it stays there and sticks there. So that could be, we could all be back to, they never reverse polarity jump started this, and this had to do with those grounds, which was my suspicions in the first place. Actually, to see that, for me, in my opinion, bodes well for the mine, in that they maybe did not hit this thing with 24 volts. But something made that gauge zero. It still could have been a reverse polarity. It could have been. Well, we don't need an oil pressure gauge. I'm not going to worry about that. If anything, I will call that the gauge that's the issue. I think it's bolt this back up time and count our blessings, and I guess be happy with the fact that everything else is good. I don't like my charging voltage, but let's go back and at least show everyone the alternator and the kind of alternator we're dealing with on this. And we can talk about that 15.5 volts and whether or not we don't like it. I know from books that I've read, I think 15.5 is the most that you want on a 12 volt battery before you start cooking the batteries. So let's go in the back and then we'll just wrap this up for this particular event for now. I don't know if the next one we'll call part 3 or not, but I think we kind of handled the stuff that needed to be handled as far as the smoked transmission module goes. Let's just get a shot in the back and then we'll wrap it up. Check out this alternator. It's freaking huge. Like for a car, it's enormous. It's huge. It's this guy right here.
Yeah, that's giant.
It is giant. I don't see any markings on it. It'd be on the back side. Big ass alternator for sure. Let me know what you guys think about 15.5 volts charging. I'm not too happy about it. I think it should be less. Should I do something about it? Should I let it go? Do you think that was part of the capacitor getting cooked on this thing? Or is it that it's charging higher because of something else that happened? What if that was the cause? And I'm pointing the finger at the people in the mines and I should have never have been in the first place? All these things, we're left with questions, but I appreciate you guys joining me in this saga, and we thank you for your comments and help and suggestions. To my friends who are offering suggestions and comments and things that they've seen, especially you heavy duty guys who've seen this transmission module fail before on these models, and the capacitor in particular, thank you. And the rest of you, our community, we love you guys. We learn from you guys as much as you learn from us. We're just happy to have you along for the ride. And we'll see you guys next time. Oh, this door. So I had it up like this, and I didn't see it out of my mirror. And I was coming out of the driveway. It was up like that. Totally didn't see it. And you know, when I leave my driveway, I mean, I'm real close to the house, and it hit. I cut the part out this winter because it was like an ice dam. But like, I just smashed the gutter and ripped the freaking door right off. Ripped it right off. Let's turn the water pump on so I can wash my hands. Come on. Oh, I drained it. Oh no.
Now you got soap on your hands.
I drained my tank. Well, that's rather unfortunate. What is she doing?
She's trying to eat the
collar?
tags on her collar.
Just take that off of her.